specific questions that come up, of course, bring them up, but I'm just going to go over a little bit of content. Some of these pieces are coming from Teachers College recently had a 3-day staff development that they did, and some of our lead teachers were able to go. That was really focused on this distance learning piece and how to do it with workshop. So I think I'll start with just sharing a couple of pieces, pausing for questions, and I see someone else just joined. So anyone who has any kind of questions, just please, you can unmute yourself and ask it, or you can type it into the chat box. I'm going to share my screen now. So what you should see now, excuse my scrolling, is a document that says virtual mini lessons in the top. Since your videos are on, can you just give me a thumbs up, either Laura or Sandy, if you can see that where it says virtual mini lessons, a white document? Okay, cool. Okay, so what this is it's a way of, we already know a lot about mini lessons, but thinking about how specifically we need to adjust or adapt if we're doing mini lessons online. The length of the mini lesson is going to be shorter than what we're used to. We want to keep it brief, about even 8 minutes. A lot of that is because it's not, for engagement, and there's not going to be turn and talks in the way that you're used to. So the things that should look familiar to you are that the structure of it, the mini lesson itself, is going to be the same. You still have your connection. You may want to make it so that when you're doing your connection, before you name the teaching point, you give the kids a little time to grab whatever materials they need, because it's, you're just starting your lesson right away, and it's like, okay, you may need to grab a piece of paper or your book you're reading or something like that. Similar to the work you're doing in in-person workshop, you're going to review the day's learning from before, and then you want to make it as personal as possible, where you're telling a story about either your reading, your writing life, around, to make it so that it's as engaging as possible for the kids and real. And then before you get into the teach, you're going to go ahead and name your teaching point as usual. I'm going to take a quick peek over to the chat box just to make sure we're not having any come up. Okay, perfect. So after you have gone through the piece of naming your teaching point, you're going to be demonstrating either in a book that you have with you or a piece of writing that you have. You can display it in the way in which I'm displaying now and taking over the screen for the kids if you're teaching online. And you want to pretend as much as possible that you're there. It's much easier, and I found in my own teaching and working with folks this week, it's much easier to do so when you know the folks and you know your class, you know your kids. So you're going to act as if they're sitting in front of you and you're working with them right there to keep it personal. The next piece is where you're going to go to their active engagement. It is going to be, there's some slight differences. So the similarities is it's where you're giving the kids a chance to try whatever it is you taught them. You're going to voice over with some sentence stems. For the partner piece, you can model having a partner, what it would look like. And sometimes, especially in the lower grades, you can get away with something like, tell your stuffy that's next to you this thing, or tell the cat, or something like that, just to have the kids actually talking about, what they're trying. I think you could probably get away with that more in lower grades than upper. You want to leave your anchor chart up, and even if it's just a digital anchor chart, like what I have right here, you can do that as far as having it displayed for the kids. What I would do, it depends how techy you are. What I would try to do during this active engagement piece is I would, I showed you before that you saw the posters in my daughter's wall. I would just have the anchor chart there and keep it up behind you. That way and turning your camera towards it as you're teaching can make it so that you are, still keeping that connection with the kids, and they're seeing you, but they're also seeing the content you're trying to show. In terms of wrapping up your short, about 8-minute mini lesson, you're going to, similar to when you're teaching in person, you will restate your teaching point, remind its connection to the others that are part of the unit you're teaching, and then sending the kids off with options that, you're going to work on this goal that we talked about in writing or in reading or in phonics. You also could pick from one of the other ones that we have. Just wanted to start with a little bit of content with you all around how some of the similarities and differences when you're doing virtual mini lessons. I'm going to scan over to the chat now and see if there's any questions or comments, things people are thinking about. It looks like there's no comments at this point. Okay.
Christy's mic is on.
My mic got turned off. Thank you. This is the joys of online teaching. Okay, so those of you just joining, because I see we have Vivian joining us, my name is Christy Restigno, and I'm the literacy coordinator, and we're just going through some of the similarities and differences around teaching your online workshop and how that's going to go. Please, any questions that you have, that if you have a specific question you're coming with, type it into the chat box and we'll make sure that we address it. I'm going to continue on with a little bit more content before we open up for some more discussion. One of the pieces I wanted to make sure I shared, especially for Vivian coming in who may not be familiar with this resource, is that our literacy department has created a resource for you, and it's called a micro toolkit. I'm going to present it to you right now, and we're going to talk through a couple pieces and then open it up for some comments and questions. Okay, so once again, because I see Sandy and Laura have their their cameras on, if you can give me thumbs up if you can see my screen. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So in order to try to be as supportive as possible with our district's transition to distance learning, given everything going on, we put together a lot of resources that are in hopes of it will be supportive of you no matter where you are in your journey. If you're really familiar with technology, if you're not as familiar, the idea is that this is going to be something that's supportive of you. And I'm going to put a link to it in the chat box, just so if anyone's actually, I'm going to ask Kate or Allison to do that, please, as I'm presenting. Just put a link to it in the chat box if folks are wanting to follow along and not just on my screen, and so they can know where they have it. Okay, so the way that this tool begins is that it starts with just an explanation of what it is, and it has some wonderful bookmarks, thanks to Kate. The four main purposes of this tool is to help you to have access to your curriculum. If you were not able to grab your units either today or another time, we do have online access for the spring units, and so you'd be able to get that here. Another main purpose of this guide is to provide specific examples from our West Contra Costa Unified teachers, and also examples from teachers outside of our district who are doing this work, to be able to see examples. Because if you're like me and you're a visual learner, you need to see it at least a couple times before you're able to really get it up and going. The third piece is there are some tools here to enhance your teaching that you're already doing, related to how some of the components that are different around digital workshop in terms of access to online books. How do you keep things lively and engaging for your students in this different manner when you can't see if they're rolling on the carpet or what's happening, that type of thing. The fourth main piece you will find in this guide is some links to different professional development sessions, which can guide you through some of these pieces. And this is a combination of professional developments that are both locally created by our literacy lead teachers here in West Contra Costa Unified, and also from our colleagues at Teachers College. And then the fifth piece of this is that if you are in this space where you need to create paper packets for your students, more specifically in TK-1, if your school is not in a place where you are one-to-one for your kids, there are resources linked in here to a place where you can find those pieces. So that was a lot of information about what's in the guide. I'm going to switch over to the chat, and perhaps in the chat you can put which is the one that you want us to explore most together in our time here, or if you have a question that has come up. There's not a specific question at this point. I think then what I will do is I will just start going through some of the pieces and keeping an eye on the chat. And Kate, it's easier for me when I'm presenting if I cannot keep an eye on the chat and present at the same time. So if there's a question that comes up that I'm not hearing or seeing, if you can just unmute yourself or let me know, please.
I will do that.
Thank you. Okay. So in terms of access, now some of you I know had the chance to go to your school today and grab your things. Some of you may not have, or if you did, you didn't know exactly what to get. So in terms of access to your curriculum, we have two ways that you can get your units. One is that we have downloaded them, saving you the step of doing so. I am going to warn you that the way in which Heinemann loaded them up onto the site, it makes it a little bit wonky when you get at them this way. So for instance, like 50% of the time when I click on this unit here, how to books for kindergarten, it works. And 50% of the time it's like, no, you can't look at it now, which is kind of annoying. So we also have the plan B for this is walking you through the steps of how to get it for yourself. Because once you get it for yourself, you have it for yourself. So like I said, so these links they work about half the time, which is really fun. And the other way in which you can access your grade level units, the steps are here. It walks you through going to the Heinemann site, the things you need to click. If you have an account, you can use it. If not, you can use our West Contra Costa Unified specific, our account that we have here. And there's even Kate put some really helpful screenshots of the places which you go to get your unit. Okay, so you have your unit and you're like, now what? We also try to make this as supportive as possible by putting as many tools as we can. I'm going to switch over to the, Kate, can you unmute yourself and just let me know what's one of the grade levels that we have here for one of our teachers, if we know, or a teacher unmute themselves and we can take a look at a grade level.
Oh. Laura, aren't you second grade?
I'm second grade.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's try second. So the unit that is indicated for second grade is the unit linked to unit series book clubs. Now, I already warned you, it may just do this thing where it doesn't work, or it may go to the unit, but it'll be okay no matter what. So when the intention is that first link here is a link to the actual unit, and it was the 50% of the time saying that it's not here. If that's what's happening for you, I'm sorry, because I know it's a little bit annoying, but you can't, if that's your case, you can just go down and you can download it. So let's go ahead and just practice it that way too. That way we can see both ways. So I'm already logged in. Once you've logged in, you don't need to do it multiple times, as long as you've been in the last 24 hours. But we were looking for that second grade reading unit. And the interesting thing is that this is about series book clubs, but as Kate put the screenshot in our directions, it's in general information, which just really keeps us on our toes. But if you go here and you click on this link, this time it better work. You should have access to your unit, and it looks just like your unit that you're used to. Okay.
Hooray!
Yay! So this should look very familiar to you. It will have all the pieces, your overview, your whole unit. That said, we are very well aware that we are, for the most part, as a system, really new to teaching units of study. So second grade teacher, if you're getting ready to teach this unit, we also included a few tips and supports for you. If you are looking here, if you're following me in the document, you can see that the second thing that is here is the roadmap for second grade. And this does not mean that this tool would make it so that you are not doing this is interesting. I'm sorry. Of course, this is going to happen when this is live. A few people have been working on editing this, so I'm going to actually go to the link for the roadmap. Excuse me. It'll take just a moment to get there. And this also shows you where you can find it at other times as well, if for some reason tech isn't working. As I'm getting there, I will explain a little bit what the roadmap is for, and what it is and isn't. So this is not something that you would use instead of looking through your unit and looking at what it's about and what the kids are doing. However, it is something that can streamline your planning process. So as a second grade teacher, if I were to go in and try to start this unit, the roadmap is going to guide me to be able to have an easier go at it. And while we're at it, I'm just going to make sure that this correct link is put into our tool.
And there are no questions yet. I will also link this current document into the chat.
Okay. So this roadmap, as I said, it's an overview, and it will help you get started with your teaching, but does not mean that you would not need to, of course, read through your things. It starts through with some information on assessment. It has everything that's a link here is an actual link to the thing. So for instance, if I'm looking at, I'm getting ready to teach session 1. And I want to have my series readers become experts on characters, but oops, I forgot my, I forgot my sticky notes. It has, when you click on it, it takes you to a link of that document, which can be hugely helpful. Another piece that is in the roadmap that I think would bear to point out is that it breaks down what the kids are actually doing in the mini lesson, which can be tricky sometimes to decipher if you're newer to the unit, if it's your first time teaching it. So the teaching point is in italics up here, and the part I have highlighted in blue is what we call the look for. It's the thing you're going to look for the kids to be able to do by the end of the session. And if I were getting ready, like you or a lot of you are getting ready to start teaching online, I would keep this at the heart because there's a lot of information included in your unit and in your sessions. But if you focus on your teaching point and on this look for and helping the kids to what they're supposed to be able to do by the end of it, it'll streamline things for you. Do we have anything coming up in chat, questions or comments at this point?
Christy, this is Allison. There actually was a question.
Okay.
Some participants have asked that presenters make their cursor bigger and darker, just because of visual challenges or limitations. Not exactly sure.
Okay.
If you go down to the bottom left of your computer if you know how to do it, go for it. Otherwise, you can search for accessibility.
Okay.
And one of us can walk you through it if you can pull it up. Sorry, I didn't let you know before. I kind of forgot.
That's okay. So I'm in accessibility now. Is it display settings?
I think so. It's specifically like cursor or mouse. Mina, if you want to hop in, I know that you know how to do this better than I do.
All right. Yes, this is Mina. Hi. So what I do is I go to the search bar at the bottom and I just type cursor in there. And it brings up the setting.
Okay. And the thing that I would do is make the cursor thicker.
Yeah, what everybody's been doing, the 2 boxes, I don't know which computer you're using, but the 2 boxes just all the way over are the darkest and the biggest.
Okay.
And then once you click the X, it should go into effect.
All right.
And that's actually a really nice thing that I've done when I make screencasts or am guiding students through things to click on their computers too. So it's a cool skill for everybody who's here to know about. Thank you, Mina.
It works right away. Yay. Okay.
And Alice, I'm going to jump in for just 1 second. Allison, what happened for me is 50% of my screen is the closed captioning and 50% is the presentation. So what Christy is showing right now is tiny because I have a tiny screen for her presentation. Okay, thank you. Sorry, go back to your presentation.
No worries. This is, thank you so much for letting me know that. And I think that this is better for just any time we're presenting. So yeah, I think it's great.
So I have a question, please.
Yes.
So your last presentation, in your last presentation, you talked about Jessie
Okay.
Welcomer's watch in a video. You
Yes.
know how she set up her video classroom. So
Mhm.
where can I find the video?
Excellent question. I'm so glad you brought that up. So right now, I will take you to that spot.
Okay.
So where we just were was where we were talking about access to the units. And the question that you just brought up was around professional development, and you mentioned
Yes.
specifically Jessie. So what you could do if you want to be fast and tricky and slick, we do have, you can just click on engage in professional development sessions, and
Okay.
then it would take you right there. And then there are many sessions that are here. Well, I wouldn't say many. There are a good amount of sessions here. They are from a combination of teachers, college staff, developers, as well as our own local teacher leaders. So the one that you were mentioning that Jessie Welcomer had put together is the one that I have highlighted right here, this working virtually in Google Classroom.
Okay. Okay.
And so that one, if that's what you're looking at, get that, it's really supportive. If you're also in that place, another one that I found really helpful that we actually watched in in another version in another office hours was let me find it. This one right here that I've highlighted, this Sonia Cherry Paul's tips for maintaining connectivity. It's around when you're teaching in workshop, helping to connect with the kids that you're working with, because it's different than when you're in person.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Why we're talking about Jessie, because she's so fantastic and so many of our literacy lead teachers are. Another piece, if you haven't had the chance to check it out yet, and excuse my scrolling, I hope you're not getting seasick, is that we do have a place where we have examples of a lot of lessons that have been already done. Jessie is one of the teachers who has been willing to share with us. And we also have some other ones too. And more were just added today. So right now I'm on, if you're following along on your own version of this doc, I'm on the bottom of page 5, top of page 6. And that is where we have examples of some different lessons. Now, these lessons that are here are flipped teaching, otherwise known as asynchronous, if you want to be fancy. I didn't know what that word meant until 2 weeks ago. But it just means that the lesson is pre-taped or pre-made, meaning one of the nice things about that is the kids can access it whenever. A lot of our kids are working in, if they do have access to tech at home, maybe there's more than one kid on the same device. So it's really, really difficult for them to be able to all be, on at 9 o'clock or on at 8:30 or on at whatever time a teacher might put out there. So a lot of teachers have found that doing their distance teaching in a way where it's flipped and kids can opt in when they are able to is a little more supportive. That's a great question. Okay. All right, so we'll keep an eye on questions. I'm going to go back up to where we were before. So we talked a little bit around accessing your curriculum, and we looked at the roadmap, which is a tool that can help you with finding, kind of streamlining your planning process. If anyone in here teaches 3rd through 6th grade or supports 3rd through 6th grade teachers, we do have a vocabulary spelling city here, which is really supportive for word study. And I have not used it as a teacher, but I have seen some of the teachers I worked with last year when I was principal at Ford use it, and they found it really supportive. They shared that if you were to support your upper grade students to use this resource, it gives them a little assessment in the beginning as to where they are with their spelling patterns, and then the kids are all working at their own pace. So the information for that, if you're an upper grade teacher, is here. If you are a lower grade teacher teaching in English phonics, K1 and 2, we also have the resources for the phonics workshop here. One of the things that I think would also be helpful for K1 teachers. We put list snap words. So if you're teaching online and there's PowerPoints that are here that have suggestions for teaching your snap words, excuse me, a document with suggestions for teaching snap words, and then a document that actually has the word themselves that kids can go through for their practice. I go back up to the top because we would talk a little bit around some examples. We went through those.
We had one question.
Yes.
And I'm not sure of the answer.
Okay.
It was about, it was from Mr. Warren, and it says, vocabulary spelling city, how to limit students to assigned work.
Can you repeat the last part of the question, Kate?
It says, how do you limit students to just assigned work in vocabulary spelling city?
You know, that's an excellent question, and I'm not sure of the answer to it, but Kate, can you make sure to get it in the notes, and then we can make sure to get back to the teacher who had the question, because it's an important one. I believe that there are settings to do so, but I don't want to promise what, the tool can't deliver.
Yep, and Mr. Warren will research that and get back to you.
All right. One of the things, and I'm going to ask Allison to chime in just a moment in terms of tools. One of the things that we have linked into this resource for you is some tools that will help to enhance your teaching, whether you're doing it live or you are recording it. And one of these pieces, this is under number 3, we have links to some read alouds from favorite authors. And these are of books that are indicated in your unit of study. So for instance, in 6th grade, there's, this Jacqueline Woodson reads Brown Girl Dreaming. That's part of the writing unit that 6th grade does. That's one of the mentor texts. So it's a resource for you. In addition, one of the pieces that is here to help with your teaching, is Padlets. So if you are looking to if you're not familiar with the Padlet, which I wasn't until a month and a half ago, a Padlet is a collection of resources that's online. So if you're looking for a way to, you're going to do, say, for instance, in the upper grades, one of the units is doing fantasy series. And you're like, how can I find some of those books? There's a link here to this Padlet. And this one is by one of the Teachers College staff developers that breaks down examples of some of the books by text level. And this is by F&P level. And some of these books, not all of them, but some of them are available in our online platforms. And I'm going to now go to the place in our toolkit where there's information about that, and then turn it over to Allison, who can talk a little bit more about some of those pieces with supporting online reading for kids. Let me just find where it is in here. I'm sorry. Too many tools. So if you're looking in the toolkit, it's in 1B. And this is where if you're looking to provide access to books online for either interactive read alouds, shared reading, independent reading. A lot of teachers have also found this really helpful for guided reading, because you can assign in Epic, you can assign books to kids by specific level. So Allison, if you want to unmute yourself and I can share some of these pieces, I know you have a little more information on this.
Yeah, why don't you leave your screen up for a sec, and then I'll present, and it'll put mine like on top of yours. So
Perfect.
When I stop sharing, it'll go back to yours sharing.
Sounds good.
So Christy shared these 4 examples. There are 4 pieces of information. I'll show folks how to, in case you're not sure, how to get that free access to Epic Books. Right now for students, it's free 24/7 at home. The only thing you'll need is a parent email address. I'm not like normally a big Epic Books pusher, but this is a really good tool to use right now. We have Destiny and Sora ebooks from the school district, and those won't go away. Those will still be free when we come back to school, fingers crossed, in September. And then there's a presentation in there that says using ebooks and audiobooks in units of study. That's just some more specific ideas that I developed with a colleague and with Christy on how to use them, even once we're back in our classrooms. And then Storyline Online has a lot of cool read alouds. So I'm going to do a quick screen share. Oh, Christy, maybe I need you to, let's see here.
Undo it. Okay.
Oh, wait, I can do it. I can do it.
Okay.
Move here. Sorry.
No worries.
Okay, there we go. All right. Sorry for my busy screen. There we go. So I'm going to show you a couple of things. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Dwayne, Sora I'm going to show you Sora right now. Sora has automatic login through Clever. So if you're not using that, I would love for you to show your students how to do it. So this is my Clever. It looks a little different than yours. It's just kind of different look. But over on the left, if you click on reading, Sora has a lot of cool ebooks, and it's a picture of a blimp soaring, and it does automatically authenticate you. It should. It's not today. I guess you do have to go through that process. Sorry. But that's the experience your students will have when they go into Sora. And then this is a place where they can access ebooks and audiobooks that the school district, mostly me, has chosen specifically for our students. So with Epic, it's whatever's in Epic. With this, it's me saying, I think we should have these as a librarian. There's this piece here about assignments. We're not giving teachers the access to assign books right now in Sora, so that's a conversation for next year, but I apologize for that. If you have any books checked out, it shows them here. So these are the 2 I have checked out right now. Students can have up to 3 books checked out. And then I wanted to highlight, and Mina, I realized I didn't fix my cursor, I apologize, but I wanted to highlight over here the collections piece. This is where I've organized a bunch of books, and I have a project to put fantasy books in here as well. So I know that we're using the letter levels, the F&P levels instead of AR in some schools, but there are collections organized by AR level, and some of you may still be using those along the top. So the thing that you would do is just click here if you're looking for a book, a Just Right book. And I might want to choose Gooneyberg Green. So I'm going to click on it, decide I can either sample it to see if I like it or just go ahead and borrow it. And one thing so this is basically the library online if you haven't used ebooks before. One thing that's really, really nice is that students don't have to remember to return their library books. So, and then again, this is something that will be available next year as well. So you can scroll through with an arrow. I have this presentation, and I will link it if you want, Christy, in the toolkit. It has really specific directions on how to use Sora and how to get ebooks in another way from the district. So I know it's kind of a lot if you've never used anything like this before.
So Allison, just a quick interruption.
Yeah.
So this would be more for supporting kids with their independent reading, but not as much for shared or guided reading or for book clubs because it's less of a teacher can assign it. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the ways that we've envisioned it is that the books that kids have checked out in Sora is the equivalent of their book box that they would have in the classroom.
Perfect.
And then if you want to do more guided reading, Epic is a good place to go. And I was just going to show you how you can set up free access right now for students. So if you haven't used Epic, I'd be happy to show you how to do that, but I don't want to jump in and do that without that request. This is my class, right? I clicked on my students, I clicked on roster. Here's my class in Epic, and I have this student, Jesse, but I don't have an email for him. So I'm going to put in his parent guardian email. There's his dad. And then it's sending an invitation as it shows in the lower right corner. It says student remote access sent. And it's just sending an email to the parent to tell them to click on a certain spot, get the app or go on the website, and then the student will have free 24/7 access. Right now, this is going to end, I think, at the end of June. And then I can show you how to assign books. Do you want me to show that, Christy?
Sure, sounds good.
Okay, and then that'll be my last thing. So if I want to tell my kid that she's supposed to read Book Itch, Freedom, Truth, and Harlem's Bookseller, I'm going to go up here to the upper left. I clicked on the book, and I'm going to go up here to the upper left corner of Assign. And we'll tell, I could select all my students if I wanted them all to read the same book, or if I just wanted Ori and Samantha to read it, I could do that and then click assign to selected. And that's a way, especially if kids are having a hard time, I think, finding the right books to be reading, that is a way that you can provide that access for them. That is all I will say about that for now, unless people have more questions.
Yeah, can you talk about how you can keep track of students reading on Epic?
I can talk about it a little bit. My colleague Darcy is the whiz at this. I think that I go to class log. Yeah, there we go. All right, we can spy on my children. So this is my roster. I'm not kidding you. My own children are in here. This is a 5-year-old. I don't know what she's doing. If there were other kids reading, I think that they would be showing here as well. So I can look at specific students. We can see what Amira has been reading. She's into National Geographic, and then it shows how much time she spent reading each book. So again, it's under my students, and then class log or student log to get to those. Does that answer your question, Sandra? Was it Sandra? Oh, it wasn't. I'm sorry. Or were there other questions about Epic or Sora or ebooks? I didn't show you guys audio.
Sorry, I have another question.
Yeah.
Yeah, the email that the district sent on the phase 2, it talks about these different links that you can go to get books, like Storyline and all of that. The Destiny and all of that, it looks like it requires, creating an account or what, I don't know. But Storyline was just easy, straight, which other ones do you recommend, like Storylines that just...
I can take this one. So
Yeah.
I think they're important, but they're for different purposes. So if you were looking at Storyline, that would be for it reads the book aloud to the student, versus what Allison was just showing you. It's more of a resource for the student to be able to read independently without the teacher, without it having, the book read to them.
Okay. Okay. So is there any other one like Storyline that you recommend?
Yes. Let me just, so I'm gonna show you here. We had a couple that were up here.
Okay.
So we had some in English, and so Storyline Online is one that is I have highlighted right here. And if you haven't used it yet or checked it out, it's pretty great. They are books that are written by, or that are read by members of the Screen Actors Guild. They're really interactive. The kids, you can pick one. If a kid goes to it, I mean, you can't assign it to them, but as the teacher, I would have no problem at all. I want you to do this one, or using this. And then as I'm presenting my screen now, you can present your screen to your students if you're interacting with them online, and have them, they have the read aloud of the kissing hand. So this is a lot of books on it. Another resource you could use is our colleagues at Teachers College put together some resources for you just for this purpose as well. And as I'm not sure if you're a part of this call earlier, but we talked about that they are these read alouds by favorite authors, which is in this tool, this micro toolkit. It's on pages 6 and 7. It has links to some of the books that are indicated in our units of study for read aloud. They're here as well. If we have any DLI teachers, the bottom link here, this is a collection of Spanish read alouds.
Christy, you're not presenting.
I'm sorry. I thought that I was. I apologize. Thank you for letting me know. I thought it automatically went to this after Allison was done.
And if you don't see Christy's presenting, if you go into the people, you have to click on her name that says presenting, not her name that has her picture next to it. Sometimes you have to selected if we move back and forth between people.
Got it. So I should be presenting now. You should be able to see my screen, which is in the toolkit. If someone can give me the okay sign, I see Sandy showing yes. Okay, cool. So I apologize for having not had that up before. So the piece that I'm talking about here is this read alouds by favorite authors. These are examples of them. And then the bottom one is, as I mentioned, Spanish read alouds. And it's not one specific author, but it's a collection of different authors. Now, there has been a lot of discussion from, in terms of copyright, like can I as the teacher do the read aloud? And if it's done, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Allison, but my understanding of this is if you are presenting to your class, as I'm presenting to you, this is a closed audience of West Contra Costa Unified teachers. If you're presenting to your class, you can do your own read aloud. It doesn't have to be in this online way, but it can't be something that you publish on YouTube for everyone to see for eternity. Because of copyright.
Yeah, Christy, I think you're right. At this point, yes. The more closed of an environment you can put a read aloud up in, the better. And I think so many rules are being relaxed right now.
Mm-hmm.
I also think it would be a really good idea when the school year ends to go through your Google Classroom and take down any read aloud videos that you've put up. Just delete them off your drive. Don't save them for next year. Then they're gone and you kind of can't be held accountable in that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but these ones that are here, you're fine to you. The storyline ones are all fine. And then these ones I have highlighted here, they're by the author themselves. And if someone's going to get in hot water, I suppose it would be the author. So they're going to be just fine. But I want to get back to something you brought up, and I don't want to mispronounce your name. Is it Ete?
Yeah, Ete. Yeah.
Okay, Ete. So you were talking about the difference between having a book that you're presenting and then having kids read. When you're getting started, like I'm thinking of like less than, just over a week from now on Monday, I'm not sure which grade you teach, but I would probably start with read aloud.
Second
okay.
grade.
I would probably start with interactive read aloud and presenting for the kids and doing it in that way for them to get used to it. And then also for you to give yourself a little bit of time to get used to it too. And while this session is, we're wrapping up at 2, we're here. And with that, I'm going to pivot to some of the ways that you can get access to support just in time or, when you need it. Because what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're being supportive of you as you're going through this journey. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. Everything is not going to be perfect by the first Monday that everything starts. No way. So you should see my screen right now. And this triangle that you have right here is the ways in which we're trying to support professional development. The things that are for all teachers are that we are working on multiple professional development sessions. They're going to be available live, and there'll be a place where you can sign up around how to teach reading, writing, and phonics workshop. This is more of a Q&A and some information, but we're looking at actually having more of a professional development session where you would sign up for how to do guided reading within workshop. How do I confer with writers? Like something very specific to what you need. And these sessions will also be taped, so you'll be able to access them when you need to. If you can't, if you have different schedules. The next piece, some teachers as needed. We have 6 of our teacher leaders who are going to be able to facilitate or co-facilitate professional development sessions on an as-needed basis. For instance, I was talking with the principal of Lake, and he was asking, can we have some professional development possibly, like in the next week or 2? And we would be able to either myself or one of these literacy teacher leaders co-facilitate that PD to be able to support you. In addition, we are going to be having weekly, at least once a week, starting out with 2 times a week, maybe shifting to 1, office hours, just like this, where you can, if it's not an immediate question, but something you kind of want to know about, you can come and get some questions answered. And then specialized support, we have, as needed, we have a curriculum instruction email address up here. And if you email us, we're pretty good. We're back to you within the hour, if not the half hour. So I just wanted to lay those pieces out just so you guys can know that this is a 1-hour Q&A, which is not probably going to meet all of the needs that you either have now or that you will have as you get up and going. If you're like me, when you start something, you kind of don't know what to ask because you're just really thinking about it. You're not sure yet, but the questions start rolling in when you try to do it. I'm going to pause for a second and ask, Kate, are there any questions or comments coming up right now that we should address? Because we're getting about to the 15-minute mark.
Yes, a couple.
Okay. Okay.
So maybe it might be easier if you skipped over to chat just to peek, but there were two questions that I saw come up. Mr. Warren asked about how encouraging people to kids to do full reading on Epic, like make sure that they're not just flipping pages. So maybe we can open that up to the group for ideas about that. Allison wrote, have you ever told kids that you can see how long they are spending on their books, just to give them a little feedback? And then Mina was asking a little bit more about interactive read alouds.
Okay, so for Dwayne, I'm not sure what grade you teach, but a lot of times for reading workshop, teachers will use reading logs, usually grades 3rd and up, that's when that starts. And that can be an additional piece where you're not trying to get them to write a book report on a reading log, not at all, but it's a way of supporting the kids to be responsible for them tracking their reading, how much time they're doing this. In terms of Mina, I'm sorry I'm speaking too fast. I will try to slow down. There will be office hours next week, next Friday. I can make sure to put the times up that we are going to be planning to have that. I believe it is next Friday at 2. With interactive read aloud. Yes, yeah. Yep, okay. So any other questions, feel free to type them in, or you can unmute yourself and ask. We're a pretty small group, only 10 people. The last thing I want to make sure to let you know, because I know schools are at all different places in terms of access to tech, is that we do have some resources here for you if you are in the place where you're looking at creating paper packets for your students. If that is the case for you, at the bottom here are linked in. They're broken down by grade level for TK-6 and then grade 1, some different literacy resources. So I'm going to click into the first grade one just because I believe we do have a first grade teacher in here. And for the first grade reading, there's 3 things here. One is a sample first grade 10-day lessons. This just breaks down like 10 days of work. That you can use for your students. They're meant to be a sampling, and you pick what meets the needs for your kids. In a first grade reading in English and in Spanish, there are a lot of different PDFs of resources that you could decide that you want to include in a packet for your students. We try to, when possible, have it mirror what we're trying to do with the students when we're live teaching. So for instance, if for first grade, when you click on the mini word wall, you're going to see the one that's in your phonics units of study. And similarly, if you're looking at writing workshop, it's going to be organized in the same manner where there are PDFs of some different documents, but we do have it so that it's mirroring the curriculum that you'd be teaching if you were live. So for instance, for writing, the union that is coming up is opinion writing. And so there's the English opinion writing checklist, and then also the Spanish opinion writing checklist. At this point, the K resources are a lot more built out than the first grade, but that's on my to-do list to add more to the first grade folder. Any questions or comments about those resources that if you're in the place that you're not going to be doing digital teaching that you might want to think about? Sandy, so these are all at the bottom of our toolkit. So prior, you have, so I have it highlighted right here. It's at the very bottom. And if you want to get to it quickly, when you're in the toolkit, Kate created some bookmarks. So it's right here in this balanced literacy toolkit. And it just takes you to a folder of the documents where we were. So for our last 10 minutes, I want to make sure I'm opening this up to questions. I've had a lot of presentation in this hour. Questions you have, things you're thinking about, concerns you might have. As you are getting up and going, I'm going to have a request to you. I've been sharing a lot of resources with you, and now here's my request. as you are getting up and going with your online teaching, we are collecting examples of lessons. These are not lessons that we're going to be publishing out to other school districts, but they are lessons that we are asking for teachers to enter their ideas and examples here, because as I mentioned before, the more we see, the more we're going to be able to, not only feel like it's doable, but it will be doable by seeing specific examples. So as you're teaching, or teachers at your school are teaching, if they're open to it, if they can add resources to this, it would be really helpful. I'm going to go back to my office hours document, see if there's anything we're missing. We talked about the digital books. We talked about the toolkit. For future reference, if let's say you can't find where this resource is, this is on the e-learning website, which I have highlighted right here on my screen. And when you go to that e-learning website, you would go over to where the teacher section is, in case you haven't done this yet. And then by content area, our literacy toolkit is right here. So if for some reason you lost a link, like I often do in Google, you can find it on the website.
And I just put a link to the e-learning site in the chat.
Perfect. Thanks, Kate. No more questions? You guys are too easy. You have it all figured out. Peek at the chat. All right, does anyone want to, as we're getting ready to close, share something that they might want covered in a future session? For instance, I would love to be able to have us look at a video together, or I want to dig deeper into how to do writing. Or if you can put in the chat box if there's something easier or something different that you would like for us to present or share, that would be really helpful because we want to be responsive. I see Mina's asking about Seesaw. Okay, so we have a lot of teachers who are doing this curriculum with Seesaw, which is an application that is more geared towards younger grade students. Let me look. I know that we have some sessions coming in on Seesaw, and let me make sure that I'm making those available to you all. I'm going to unshare my screen for a second, and I will put a link to the sessions coming up next week, because I think what will be helpful is people are at different starting places. So what I'm going to share to you now are kind of like Seesaw 101 professional development sessions that are happening, and also Google Classroom ones. And then next week when we come together, we can look at, okay, workshop through the Seesaw lens, because it'll be more technical support on how to use the application versus how to teach workshop within it.
Christy, can I make a quick comment about Seesaw?
Of course. Mm-hmm.
I think, oh, sorry, turn my camera back on. Mina and others, I think just like my preliminary comment about that is that, of course, the little kids, those younger ones, can't really process that much video. Like they can't watch very much video anyway. So being able to do your mini lessons, or even like small parts of your mini lessons as little short videos and then sort of sending them on their way for Seesaw. And then the concept, I think, of Seesaw is that they could do something even on paper and take a picture of it and kind of give it back to you in Seesaw. So that's just like my initial sort of thought that comes up. And I think all of us in central office are really encouraging you to take things one step at a time. And like, even we're doing that also. And I would be so curious, and I think Darcy and Christy would want to know too, and Kate, how Seesaw is working for you. But I would really encourage you to like see what works and let us know. Yeah, like Dwayne said, we have to get messy. And you've seen that from us too. Things are messy sometimes in these sessions. But please tell us. Oh, the video's back to you. Mina, you can get, I know you have little kids, but Flipgrid can process closed captions on videos. So that might be another option for you to explore, is having kids record in Flipgrid as well. I know it's a little different, a little harder. That's all that I have to say.
Okay. So next Friday, the 10th, from 12:30 to 1:30 is going to be our next office hours. And that's your spring break. So if you need to go spring break, you go spring break. At the same time, I can make sure to incorporate some more around workshop and Seesaw. And what I can do is put together some of the sample lessons, because we have one of our teachers at Montalvan, Martinique Perry, who has some really cool videos put together. Or you can look at them in your own time. They're in the toolkit. Around how she set up her mini lessons within Seesaw. Because that's the application that she's using.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for, some schools are not doing unit of studies, right? We're doing the EL. So do you have, sessions for ELs too?
So I think you're talking about the EL education curriculum, which some
Yes.
schools are using as a supplement.
Right.
To what they're doing to our adopted curriculum. And I don't specifically have something like that. But what I would do is I would reach out to your vice principal or your principal at your school site, because they're the ones more managing the schools that are using that supplementary piece.
Oh.
That said, I don't think that anything that we've shared here in terms of interactive read alouds, having kids reading independently, or writing, supporting kids to write, that would get in the way of what you're trying to do.
Okay.
That's a good question.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Helen, do you have a specific, as we're getting ready to close, was there a specific question that you wanted to ask or something you wanted us to cover as we're getting ready to close up? Okay. All right, we're going to call it then. So thank you for engaging in this Friday afternoon on this crazy week, right on spring break eve. I hope that it was supportive of you, and we hope to support you in the future. And you need to decide what you want to do for this next week. But if I can give you some advice that I'm going to try to take myself, and I'm going to ask Kate to hold me to it, of not working a lot next week, because we are in, I think as Allison alluded to, this is a marathon, not a sprint, and people have been working a ton. And it will be okay. Monday, Tuesday of the first week we're back are really going to be around connecting with your students, talking with them around how things are going. And if you really get excited, all the PD sessions are available and they're taped. You can access them if you want to, but we'll be here when you get back. And with that, I'm going to close this out. Thank you so much.
I'll remind you, Christy.
Thanks, Kate.
Okay, bye.